All right, guys. Yeah, good hockey talk there, Ian. Let's get into something I know will wake Big Man up, some college football talk. Big Man, why don't you start us off? What do you want to hit on college football-wise? What did you see last week that you're bringing over to this week?
Well, I'll discuss team to bet, team to fade. I said it last night on the closing line I did with Donnie. The Miami Hurricanes are a team that I'm very high on going forward. I think, and I said it last night, I believe they're going to beat the Clemson Tigers in the ACC. I really like this team. I think long term, they're a team with a really tailor-made schedule to kind of get to that title game. They don't have much, really. They don't face Clemson in the regular season. I love what I've seen from this team defensively. I mean, they're one of the best defensive teams in the country, 16th overall. Rozier has been really good. I mean, I was a little unsure of what we'd see from him. I know Hurricane fans were as well, but overall, he's been really effective so far. If Mark Walton is completely healthy, this team is going to do some big things this year. I think he's a running back that a lot of people really know much about. They're well coached under Richt, and I think they're starting to build a little bit of a special season down there. We'll see how it goes, but they're a team that long-term looking to bet. They don't have a schedule that's too tough. They've already – you look at this week even, they're getting Florida State at an opportune time. Florida State's young. They have a quarterback with not much experience, and their offense is dreadful. I like what I'm seeing from Miami. I think long-term they're going to be a team to maybe look out for. They're, I believe, 13th in the polls. I think that's only going to get better. A fade team, and I'm not going to surprise anyone with this, but you have to wonder where they're going to win a football game this year is Nevada. I mean, they can't move the ball at all. They're bottom 20 in the country offensively. And, Drew, if you remember, when we gone over this team in the Campus Connection, I made it clear to you they were completing and totally going to have a new offense and defense. And you look at offensively, they have been dreadful. It's no secret that when you change an offense, you have to have good players to run it. They have 4 true freshmen receivers. They just don't have a ton of playmakers on this team. Their pass defense is among the worst in the country. I believe they're second last. They're bad, and they're going to be a team that long term just isn't going to be able to compete, I don't think, in any capacity. Nevada is a bad team, and they're going to be bad for a number of years.
They are absolute fade city because I was on Fresno laying the points against them last week, and everyone's saying, how can you lay 9.5? Yeah, you can, because it's Nevada they're playing, and they absolutely drilled Nevada. That thing was over in the second quarter. 31-0. I know Nevada sort of made it close late, but it was over. And that Fresno team, keep an eye on them. That's a team with CFL connections, by the way. They're going to be a better football team this season. They're already showing signs of that.
I guess that makes them winners already, right?
Yeah, exactly. The CFL. No, their defensive coordinator used to be in the CFL. He knows what he's doing. So, and you're already seeing that Fresno, because that Fresno defense was a joke. It was a laughing stock last year. It couldn't stop anything. And they're already making strides forward in that remark. But getting back to Nevada, there's nothing going right here. Defense is deplorable. Can't move the ball. Ty Ganji's been erratic. And from all the people I see and talk to in Vegas, and they've got people they know from the Reno campus there where Nevada, and they say this is a rebuild that's not going to be fixed anytime soon. This is a long, painful rebuilding process that is going to have to go forward here with the Nevada Wolfpack. It's not going to be fixed. It's not going to get better anytime soon. In fact, it could even get worse before it gets better. It's what everyone across the board has been saying that's close to that Nevada team. There's no way I'll put my money on that team. The question is, can you trust Hawaii this week? I actually would. I know they're favored on the road. That's not something you like to do with Hawaii, but I think this is a time for Hawaii to put their foot down and take advantage of a reeling football team. I'd still look to lay it with the Rainbows there.
And Donnie, what about you? What about any teams to back or fade in college football?
Yeah, so you try to. I always like to try to build a case, even if some teams, don't show up the week before, 2 weeks before that, they're really struggling. Maybe there's a ray of sun there. Looking at the ECU game last week, Thomas Sirk back in at quarterback. I thought they were viable for the over, that one easy. There's 2 teams I don't know if there's any coming back from, so to speak. I watched them both, and I've watched them both over the past couple weeks. One of those teams, obviously, is a MAC team. It's Kent State. Last week was one of those games where it could have been a winnable football game. You had Buffalo decimated by injuries in the backfield without their starting quarterback. You weren't even really competitive in that game. Number 2 is San Jose State. Going into UNLV last week, I did have UNLV, so it was a nice win, but they weren't really that competitive in that football game. They have a quarterback that throws the ball all over the field, inaccurate, bad decisions. They have no defense to stand behind them. That's two teams I'm looking at. Air Force is the third team that's just disappointing on my end. Jeff and I talked about the San Diego State game that they played in the rain. If that game didn't rain at all, San Diego State might have beat them by 3 touchdowns in that game, to say the least, and that was at home. They go on the road playing another, running team, so to speak, in New Mexico. Didn't handle that situation very well, got blown out. Now you're going to the best running team in the nation to me, Navy, who I think is going to hang another one on them. So going forward, a little bit down on them. Backing a team, got to be UCF. I like what I see out of them. I like the schedule with them moving forward. That's a real football team. And as I like to say, Scott Frost, living in Orlando, get used to him. Like him this year. He will not be your head football coach next year.
Hey, Drew.
Yo.
One thing to build off of what Donnie said, he mentioned San Jose. I think one other team that I'm intrigued by going forward is UNLV. I think they're a team that, I think they might end up being a team that might put some scares in teams. Not many people know that they're a really good rush offense. I mean, they really can just sit on the football and run you like crazy. A lot of people will avoid them because of what they did against Howard University, but ever since then they played pretty well. I know they haven't played anyone, but I think they're a team that will be intriguing. I think Tony Sanchez is doing some good things there. I think long term, he's building some good things, and they will do things. They have playmakers. They might be a team that might put a scare into some teams. We all know the Mountain West isn't great. They don't play Boise. They don't play Colorado State. They don't play a lot of the big boys either. So there could be a team that will cover numbers because a lot of people were turned off by what they did in week 1.
Sort of reminds me of a Washington State and Temple case from last year. Lose the first game, big favorite, and then they're just undervalued ATS-wise most of the rest of the season. And Temple and Washington State last year both had incredible seasons against the spread. Maybe that's the case for UNLV, that Howard loss way back in the first week of the season that everyone wanted to run Tony Sanchez out of town for. Maybe leaves them undervalued. I know they got shit kicked by Ohio State after that, but outside of that, it's a team that I think as long as they're playing comparable opposition and talent-wise and athleticism and speed, comparable foes in all three of those departments, it's going to be a team that's going to be able to win some games and cover some point spreads because they do have some talent on offense. The defense, when they're able to step down in glass, isn't quite so bad. If they're playing comparable foes, there might be some opportunities here with the Rebs.
Hey, Donnie, I got a question for you. As far as program outlooks go, you got a nice on-campus stadium, a new one. You're in a fertile recruiting ground. As far as where the program outlook goes, it looks pretty strong at UCF. Why do you think he for sure leaves?
I mean, somebody's going to pay him 5 times the amount that he's making down at UCF. I mean, they're not a Power 5 conference, so they're not going to have everything at their whims. I mean, if a team like Nebraska comes calling and says, we're going to lay out $8.5 million, and you write the check for what you want in the practice facility and the staff that you want and what you can get after, there's going to be a bidding war for his services. And UCF, I mean, hey, it might be in the next 15, 20 years more up and coming, but right now, until they get into the Power 5, that football money is just not there yet. Somebody's going to blow him away with an offer and just take that next step up for him. He's that good of a football coach.
And unfortunately, that's just the landscape that we are in college sports, unfortunately. Like Donnie said, UCF's not going to be ever a high-level football program, unfortunately. It's a place where you breed, you become a decent coach, you do good things, and you move on. That's just the unfortunate nature of the beast if you're a smaller program.
All right, money talks. That's a fair argument. I don't know, Jeff, if they'll never be a top echelon program though. I don't know if I never be.
So what you think they're?
It's really competitive. It's really competitive down. So even when you were growing up down there or looking at it, Drew. I mean, back in the day, you didn't even have South Florida. I mean, it was basically the Miami Hurricanes. You had Florida State and Florida as the 3 teams. I mean, look at that recruiting that you used to be able to get. Now these, other teams pop up, FIU, FAU, USF, UCF. I mean, all these programs coming in over the past 15 to 20 years, and it's still a very competitive atmosphere down there. I just think with UCF to compete and be on a national level, it's going to be hard just from all that pull in that area. If it was just UCF, no South Florida, no FIU, no FAU, they could probably make that jump into a
Put them in North Dakota. Maybe they'll win recruiting battles. But other than that, they're not going to. We're talking about UCF here. We're talking about a team that didn't win a game 2 years ago. I mean, since when is UCF any good? I mean, they win 1 game, and all of a sudden now they're
good this season.
They're going to win
good this season, yeah.
Why? Because they won 3 games.
Yeah, they're much better. They're much better.
They're a good football team.
They finally got a coach that's in there and has turned things around. It comes from a winning pedigree too. In Oregon, Scott.
But he's going to leave, and then they're going to go back to oblivion, like always.
They could, but the thing is,
O'Leary had a couple winning seasons for them, though. They weren't that bad.
The thing that's going to make it tough, though, it's really tough. Not so much on UCF. UCF's going to get a little bump from this nice little run they've had with Frost, but when he leaves, it could get tough again down the road. But it's FIU and FAU that are really going to struggle, because you look at Miami, they're really on the way up again. Florida State's still there. They're the two teams that are really going to have a hard time making inroads here with recruiting. I mean, Butch Davis in particular, because FIU's near that bottom of that entire list of Florida schools right now from a football perspective. He is going to have to really overcome some things in order to make us inroads with recruiting for that program.
All right, guys. No, good discussion there. Hey, anybody got a strong opinion on tonight's game or any weekday college football? Big man, are you involved in any of these games?
I'm not sure that I'll be involved in tonight's game. No, I think we all agree that Georgia Southern's a pretty poor football team. The line's up to 9 at this point. I think people are starting to see that they're just not very good. I think Arkansas State will win. Am I comfortable laying 9? Not really, just because I think this is a game where we're going to learn about what kind of football team Arkansas State is. Are they a team that just faced really tough opponents in the first couple weeks, and now they're in conference play and they're going to dominate? Because, Drew, as you know this, son, about they're a team that's in the upper echelon of this conference. So a game like this, you have to go on the road and just be better than the other team. I mean, they're a better football team. They're well coached. They should be able to go on the road and get the job done here. But there's some questions and injuries with Justice Hansen and others. So I'm not in love with laying points, but they'll win. They should win by double digits. They really need to kind of just show that they're an upper echelon team. As far as any other one, Donnie and I talked about NC State. I'm sorry. I think this is a really interesting spot. It reminds me a lot of Washington State last week. A team coming in that's, kind of that hunter, if you will, and then you have kind of a hunted team in North Carolina State who not many people give a lot of respect to, but the truth of the matter is they're a pretty good football team. They have a good quarterback. They have a really high-level offense. They can move the football at a high rate, and they have a really good defensive line. That's one of their underrated points. Louisville has a questionable defense. They have questionable players at really every position other than Lamar Jackson. Can he put them on his back and do whatever he wants here? I'm not so sure. I like their defensive line. I think this is going to be a tough atmosphere on a Thursday night to play in. I'm looking squarely at the dog here and maybe pulling off an upset. Louisville has some chinks in the armor. I think NC State can exploit that, what they do well.
I like that one as well, big man. And I also like NC State's defensive line kind of neutralizing, Louisville's dual threat quarterback ability. So I think that getting that extra half hook on the 3 number is a good bet with NC
That's
State.
A weak offense. That's a very, very weak and suspect Louisville offensive line as well. And I think that could be a distinct matchup edge for NC State in this game. Completely agree.
All right, guys. Ian or Donnie, any other thoughts on maybe Memphis, UConn, or BYU, Boise?
Memphis, UConn. I mean, you're looking at that game from a points perspective. Over-under opens up at 73 at Pinnacle, now sitting at 72, 73.5 at BetOnline. I would see more points in that one than not, because Connecticut's going to try to go 100 miles an hour. Whether or not you like their quarterback or their style of offense, they're going to get a lot of swings at the plate. And Memphis, atrocious on defense, looking for a bounce-back effort. They're not going to get much resistance going against that Connecticut defense. I would lean on points in that game. I can easily see that game ending up both teams in the mid-30s and somewhere in that range, scoring that 75, 76, 77 point range. I would lean on the over in that game.
And a lot of people think that UConn, like Donnie said, is I think the general consensus with them is that they're that slow team and they play defense. They're totally different. They can't stop anyone, and they go pretty fast all of a sudden. Sheriffs is a dual threat quarterback. Memphis needs to, wake up, I think, and this is a good spot to do it in. I have a feeling they run away in this game. They really need a good showing after last week, and I think they're looking like a little bit of a fraud right now. They beat UCLA, okay, but the other 3 games, they were very pedestrian in. To go on the road here, I think you need to kind of get right here and pound UConn. UConn's poor. They don't defend anyone. This should be a game. If they can't score points in this one and beat this team by 20, I don't know what to say about Memphis, really.
You know what's funny is I was not convinced UConn was ready to have totals in the 70s but even with their speed, their up tempo, and their offense and their defense just not stopping anyone. And sure enough, they still get up and over last week against SMU, a total in the mid 70s, a 49-28 final score. So I'm absolutely looking over or pass in this game from a totals perspective. I don't think they're going to stop Riley Ferguson and Memphis one iota. But again, we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting for Memphis's defense to improve and show us something. And look at the 4 games, 29 against Monroe allowed in a rainstorm in a brutal weather scenario that night, 45 to UCLA, 31 to Southern Illinois, the Salukis out of the FCS, and then 40 burger hung by the UCF Knights last week against this Memphis team. No good on the defensive side of the ball. So there absolutely should be points. Totals-wise, I definitely have a lean over. I thought that was one of the more pathetic performances of the week last week, Memphis. I don't know what went on there, but that was embarrassing. Hey, Mackenzie Milton can play a little bit for UCF. Good dual threat quarterback. Milton can play for that. And they're better defensively than I had envisioned. Yeah. I thought they would be. We hadn't really seen much of them because they only played a couple games, but they looked good. I mean, you hold Memphis to 13 points. That's impressive. Yep.
Guys,
UConn ain't doing that. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Right.
Guys, we have over 130 viewers right now and only 30 likes. Please don't be a lurker. If you're liking the content, please give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Donnie, sad moment in the Roundtable history. No, you got to hit the road. Any opinion on Western Kentucky versus UTEP, or and then hit us with your best bet, man?
Western Kentucky, UTEP. No, I'll be far away from that game as I'm about to approach my Manny Petty appointment that I have about 15 to 20 minutes. So I don't have any opinion on that. But best bet for this week on the Roundtable, I'm going to go 303, 304. New England and Tampa Bay. Why not? It's the next NFL game up on deck on schedule. A lot of people still think New England's out there. They're the team. No way they're going to lose 2 games here. Tampa Bay's a pretty good football team. I've been on them all summer long. But Jeff and I also been talking about them on the Roundtable for quite some time. This is one of those step-up games. This is a measuring stick game. You're a real football team. You beat New England in this spot. You're getting 5.5 points at home. I look for Tampa Bay to cover this. I don't know about that 56 over-under. I'll stay away from that game. I do see points in that one, but 56 in the NFL is quite a high number. All it would take is 1 interception, 1 fumble with one team going in, and that over doesn't cover. I'm going to lean on the home team in this one and take Tampa Bay on Thursday night, plus 5.5 is my best bet for the week.
Hey, Donnie. Don't knock the Manny Petty.
Awesome.
Nothing wrong with those.
Yep, I got to be pampered and taken care of. I had a good week in football, so I'm going to go get a Manny Petty, and I got to get out of here.
When I lived in South Philly, I had this great nail chick. She had my cuticles looking good, man. Nothing wrong with that. Got to stay pampered, bro.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yes.
I got to get out of here.
All right, buddy. See ya.
All right. See you for the closing line, buddy.
Absolutely.
There we go.
All right, boys. Donnie didn't want an opinion on the degenerate special, so let's just do a little tripod here. Western Kentucky UTEP looks like Western Kentucky's laying 19 pretty much across the board. Total 56.5 at Penny, 56.5 at 5 Dimes. Also showing some 57s at Heritage and Chris. Any opinion betting this one? Is anybody betting it personally right now? And if not, any opinions going forward on if you may bet it?
Yeah, I'm a little curious here about UTEP plus 19. I got to tell you, I think this is an interesting number for West Kentucky to lay. If you look at the Hilltoppers, they're a shell of what they once were. That high up tempo, 45 points a game, really isn't happening right now with Mike White and this offense. Mike Sanford's really transformed them into not that anymore. They're not putting up a ton of points. They haven't covered a point spread this year. And you look at some of the barometer games, okay? You would relate UTEP to like a Ball State. Ball State was without their quarterback Riley Neal and their best running back James Gilbert, and they still hung with Western Kentucky. They didn't look good against Eastern Kentucky. They're just a team that is struggling to put teams away. And I'm not sure that I want to lay almost 20 points with them. I do think UTEP's offense is better with Zach Greenlee. I'd much rather have him over Ryan Metz. He's a better completion percentage. He just runs the offense better. And Sean Kugler is gone. Hallelujah. Sing to Jesus. He's gone. Mike Price steps in. If you don't know anything about Mike Price used to coach at UTEP. He's an older guy, kind of reminds you of a Jim Grobe type. He's just kind of going to fill in for the rest of the season. But I get the feeling that look, UTEP's bad, but are they this bad? I don't think West Kentucky's that good. They're not what they used to be. And one guy to look out for, the one playmaker on UTEP, Quadriz Wadley had a good game last week against Army. I was impressed with the fight by this team against Army. At home here, getting 19 against a team that I just don't think has any business laying this kind of number. I think this is one too many points. I think this is like a 34-21 type of game.
I agree with you, man. I like what you said. Also, I bet you bring up Mike Price. If you don't know the story about him, he was the coach for Alabama and never actually coached a game. It's actually an interesting story. Went down to, I believe, Panama City or Pensacola and had a hell of a night and then got fired from his job. So just Google Mike Price, Alabama. It's a funny story. But bringing up UTEP, you know, finding change. And UTEP, I actually lost against them this past week on Army. And I just plain and simple graded as Army wasn't 23 points better than UTEP. They really weren't, big man.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think they were, and they weren't covering at any point in the game. They had a chance where they went up 17, and you're kind of thinking they had the football. You know, they're actually going in, and at that point they'd pulled Ahmad Bradshaw, and I'm thinking, damn it, man, I don't think we're going to cover because I didn't have much reason to think. The kid comes in, throws a pick six, and the cover's gone. But no, they weren't better than, you know, they weren't 23 points better than UTEP. And, you know, I just think with UTEP, they're going to put up a little fight at some point. And you're starting to see a little bit of playmaker there. There are many, but yeah, I agree. I like their play last week on the road at West Point. Not easy to do. They're at home here. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd go UTEP or pass. Ian, what about you?
I can't do it with UTEP. Sorry. You could have hired any fucking coach to replace Sean Cooper.
You can't hire any coach. It's the middle of the year.
And you choose Mike Price. Mike frickin' Price, who drove this program into the ditch. Do you think he gives a flying fidoo at Mike Price at his age, being out of coaching for 5 years? Let's turn around UTEP football from the disaster and the ditch it's in? Not a chance. He is the one guy that I will not trust to turn anything around with this UTEP program. Problem is on the other side. Western Kentucky's 0-4 against the spread. That's a falling knife theory in play here. They're way off from what they were last year. You look at Mike White and the downward spiral he's had because Jeff Brom's not there. He's a quarterback whisperer of the college ranks, quarterback guru. He did everything as much as Mike White to make him a good quarterback. You look at Mike White, he's dropped off. His play has not been as good without Jeff Brom there. And Mike Sanford, to me, is a mediocre replacement as a head coaching hire here at Western Kentucky, replacing Jeff Brom. And they haven't covered a number, and they haven't even been close to covering a number. So this is an impossible game. I cannot and will not lay it with Western Kentucky, but I can't endorse UTEP. You hired the one guy that I would never, ever in a million years bring back to this program because he ruined it in the first place.
I'll be honest with you, Ian. I couldn't disagree more. I mean, what he put this team in the AP top 20. They made multiple bowl games. What?
That went 10 years ago. What about the last 3-4 years when it turned into a complete nightmare?
Okay. I mean, again.
Most recently with Mike Price. Early on, he inherited some nice players, I thought. But when it came time for him to recruit, him to do the dirty work, the heavy lifting, couldn't do it. Basically, he was lifting the things, and it basically broke his back, and he couldn't do it.
I hear
you. I'm a Price guy. I haven't been. Yeah, early on, he did have success, but last couple of years, it was a disaster. They were just and that one-way freight train going downhill. And Sean Kugler, unfortunately for UTEP, couldn't rescue it. I mean, couldn't do anything to fix it either. And now he's out. But you have an opportunity. I don't care who you can get. You can find me and knock on my door, be the head coach. Anybody but Mike Price. I didn't like that decision at all. Not even maybe.
Yeah, but I think your grass shows. What are you going to do? I mean, it's the middle of the season and you're UTEP football. I don't think there's a ton of people knocking on the door. I mean, he's one of 2 coaches in this program's history to make 3 bowl games. Again, he retired. I guess he decided it was time for him to move on. This is, a Jim Grobe thing. You're plugging him in, and then you attack and try to find a coach next.
And how did that work for Baylor? Not very well. Not well at all.
Ian, UTEP's among the worst teams in football. I don't think I'm not saying that he's going to turn them around and make them a bowl team. Do I think they can cover 19 against a poor football team? Yeah, and then I won't ever care again about them. You're right. Yeah. But I think in this spot, I think that whole, let's play. We got a new coach. Let's all be excited here. This will go away next week, and they'll probably be a bad team again, and they are a bad team. But like you said, West Kentucky's just lost its luster. I mean, they're not what they once were.
And let's not forget that Army still outgained UTEP by almost 200 yards last week. So let's hold on about UTEP turning a corner. We'll see if they've done it this week against a team that they should be able to hang with a little bit more. We'll see. I mean, that's why it's such a tough game. I hate this thing that UTEP's doing with Mike Price, but look at Western Kentucky. I can't make a case to lay these kind of points, even if I think UTEP's no better with Mike Price. I mean, Western Kentucky's just been overvalued and haven't come close to covering a number yet. Can't take them either. So it's a clear pass for me. But I wish you luck, big man, with UTEP, even though I don't like it much.
Yeah, I might be wanting to blow my brains out towards the end of this game, but hey, we'll give it a shot. You never know.
Yeah, I doubt anybody's betting big on UTEP, but I can see the argument, and I don't know, I might get there for a small amount. But Ian or Big Man, do you think they called Art Briles?
Oh boy, Ticats did in the CFL, so anybody can.
Yeah, I can't say I think they did. I think he's blackballed at this point. I don't think we'll see him again. But I think they're an interesting team. I mean, they're that bad team in college football. I don't really know where they go from here. I would say they'll probably do what, maybe like what SMU's done. You try to find one of those young coaches, or like what a North Texas did with Seth Luttrell. Find one of these young coaches that maybe is doing some good things, and kind of like that, and try to build a program. But it's going to be 5, 6, 7 years until I think UTEP is relevant again. You got to stop, and smell the roses. And UTEP, it's time to do that with them.
They clearly didn't have another option lined up, clearly, because you're talking about plucking a guy that's been sitting in a retirement home for the last 5, maybe he's got a house or whatever, last 5 years, eating his ice cream. The nurse is feeding him his ice cream there, in the nursing home. Well, maybe not. He's
71 years old. That's definitely pretty old to be a coach.
Pluck him out of there, and now he's coaching again. I just don't know if a Mike Price comes in here and has really got the passion, the gusto, and like let's get things turned around here at his age, after being out of football 5 years, just a little bit more out of touch now with the way the college game is right now, even more. We'll see. This, in theory, is an opponent they shouldn't be overwhelmed by, Western Kentucky. It'll be fascinating to see what they do.
I didn't think we'd get this much discussion out of UTEP, Western Kentucky, but no, we did.
No, good stuff, guys. And a lot going on in the chat box. Feel free, guys, to chime in on whatever you'd like to hear. And if you're liking the show, we got John Willis asking about Navy here. So 367-368 Air Force Navy. You laying the 7.5, big man? I know you know a lot about military academy.
Yeah. I would run to the window to do this. I think Donnie Rightside mentioned it. Navy's an elite offensive team, as we know. Air Force, I like to bet them at home in precarious situations where it might take the opponent a little bit to get used to. They get a team that has never played an elevation or something like that. But on the road in Annapolis against a team in Navy who is just way better than they are, I'm not running to the window to grab Air Force here. I think their defense, Air Force, struggles. I think they're going to struggle here on the East Coast. I haven't looked into it a ton. Navy's just a team that I always back. They don't hurt you. They're not gonna make bad decisions. I would definitely be looking Navy there. They usually win by double digits. That's what they do. They do it every week. They win by 10 to 14. That's what they do. Yeah, I would co-sign Navy, sure.
Okay. Hey guys, we got we'll hit on the big matchup, TCU West Virginia, there, and we'll get into best bets and then close it out. Guys, let's hit on 387-388 West Virginia TCU. 69 the total, minus 13.5. Big matchup here in the Big 12. Could decide the championship in an outside fashion. Ian, big man, who wants to start us off?
It's an interesting game, a fascinating game, because TCU, obviously, we were wondering really how good this football team was. And to me, the enigma for this football team has been, I kind of like their defense. I like their coach, but do I like the quarterback? And Kenny Hill, coming into this season for TCU, really had a lot to prove to me, because I had not been impressed with him one iota. And sure enough, he goes in there against Oklahoma State a couple of weeks ago, plays great, and TCU able to take care of business in that football game. So I'm seeing improvement out of him. That's a good sign for TCU. I'll tell you what's not a good sign for the other side of the equation for West Virginia. I've seen a lack of toughness in the trenches from this team on the defensive side of the football. They've been pushed around a little bit on the defensive side in terms of stopping the run's been a problem. here for West Virginia and Dana Holgerson's team. That's been a massive problem so far this season. You look at what they're giving up: 5.3 yards per carry, 226 rushing yards per game, 6.1 yards per play. We knew this defense was going to be a little bit suspect coming into the season, but they've played much worse than I thought. 451 yards per game allowed on the season for West Virginia. You look at TCU, on the other hand, they are shutting down the run. 2.8 yards per carry allowed, less than 100 yards per game on the ground. Numbers through the air, not too bad. And they've played some pretty good passing games, particularly passing attacks the last 2 weeks, SMU and Oklahoma State. So there's really no shame in TCU doing that. It's a lot of points to lay. I'm not going to lay the points here with TCU, but I've got some massive issues with West Virginia defensively right now. I mean, Virginia Tech in the first week carved them up, their one-step-up game. Even East Carolina moved the ball well against West Virginia. And, of course, Kansas, 34 points hung on this West Virginia defense, able to run the football at will down West Virginia's throat. That's a concern for me. I know you're getting double digits as an underdog here, this West Virginia team. I don't like the signs I'm seeing from the defense. I do like the progressions we're seeing out of Kenny Hill, the quarterback for TCU. So if I had to, I'd lean to the favorite, but it's a lot of points in a Big 12 conference game like this one. Going to stay away, but I've got some defensive concerns, maybe over the total, worth a look as well in this one.
Big man, you want to hit it or just skip it?
Yeah, I don't have too much in this one. It's a tough one. Neither team is particularly good against the spread, so it's hard for me to get involved with the scenario that they're in. I mean, TCU 6-16 over the last 22 as a favorite. It doesn't put a lot of confidence in. They're better as an underdog. Do I want to lay 30 points? No, I think it's a stupid number. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think we're looking a ton into what they did 2 weeks ago against Oklahoma State. They're off a bye here. Do I think they're 13 points better than West Virginia? No. I think Will Greer's a kid that will put up big numbers this year at West Virginia. That's what they're going to do. But I was impressed with what TCU did defensively against Oklahoma State. Can they do that 2 weeks in a row? I don't know. I'll side with West Virginia. I'm not in love with their defense. This is a pass for me. I'm not going to be betting this game. I just think there's a little too many points in a Big 12 game where you have a capable offense that if they're down 21 or 17, they're not going to just throw the towel in. They'll get that late score. I like West Virginia offensively. I feel like they could stick around here. I think TCU look, they held Arkansas to 7 points. That's pretty impressive. And they did what they wanted to do against Oklahoma State. I don't know. We'll see, but I think West Virginia and Will Greer are a little undervalued here. I would take a shot with them if I had to.
This game's a great lesson to bettors because I had TCU circled in this game as a potential play, but fact of the matter is I didn't get the number I wanted. So it becomes a clear pass to me. And this is a great reminder that it's this big Saturday college football board. Pick your spots. Don't have to bet every game. Pick your spots, be disciplined, circle to go forward with the games that you really have a strong conviction on. Don't have to bet the board. If the number's not to your satisfaction, you can say skip it and move on to the next one.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.